it might be a 3-bid league. And then there's another spot. You have all of these SEC teams. There's really 6 right now. Texas and Oklahoma can totally win out and make it. I don't really like Vandy's case regardless, but 5 from the SEC is not too much. There's ways for a lot of teams to get in. There's ways this might sort out and just be pretty easy to figure out. There's a lot of football to be played.
And I should hasten to point out, it is the mosaic. They're watching the tape. Much of this is going to depend, Dan, I totally agree with you. Much of it will depend on what the committee members think, particularly the 6 guys with either coaching, playing experience, or both, think of the teams. But strictly from a resume and data standpoint, and while the strength of record on ESPN is very likely similar to what they have in the committee room, they are not taking from it. There is not one universal strength of record metric. They have one they call record strength, which is new to them this year. If it is reflective of what ESPN's strength of record says, BYU, Texas Tech, maybe not appreciably different, but they are ranked ahead of Texas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt in terms of strength of record right now as we sit. They are behind, the big 4, so to speak, of the SEC right now, but they're ahead of the others. And Utah is still top 20. And one thing they're doing too, and I talked to I'm not going to go too far nerding out because I'm not a data scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but I talked to one this week who has some real intimate knowledge of the way this process was put together and how they evaluate. What the committee is doing is they are, they're, instead of just taking the average and looking at the number, it's a question I've asked many times. Is there really a difference between having the number 10 strength of record and having the number 19 strength of record? Is that a real difference? And it's something they've addressed based on standard deviation from the mean, statistical nerd term, but they've used that to put these teams into tiers. So what's going to happen in some cases, they're doing this for both record strength and strength of schedule, is my understanding, is that if you are in the same tier, I just mentioned that Texas Tech and BYU are ahead of the SEC teams, but they're also high. It is highly likely, if not probable, they're in the same tier. So just because one ranks 8 and one ranks 12 won't necessarily carry the day. But if someone ranks 12 and someone ranks just outside that tier in the next one, that is going to, it may not carry the day, but it is going to be more important in the room. There is going to say, okay, this one piece of data that we're looking at least in this case, favors the team in tier 1 as opposed to the team in tier 2. So my point is, it's probably going to come down to the tape and come down to the football judgment and come down to the traditional things of the big wins. But if you go strictly by the number and where they rank, the Big 12 teams are right there. They're right in the mix to be evaluated for 2 or 3 bids, depending on how the rest of the season and country play out.
I hate going down to the tape. I just can't. It's like my
Why? I think that's why you have a committee. If you don't, you need the full formula and data, and whatever it spits out, it spits out. If not, you have to let those guys with football judgment evaluate. Why not? Why do you not like that?
Because the people with football judgment had Texas and Penn State 1 and 2 this year. I mean,
no, they didn't. No, to be fair, no, they didn't. Because they didn't start until now.
First off, I'd wait till the end to do this thing. It'll probably come down to you picking between 2 teams. So I really don't care. By the time this sorts out, look, like I said, if Oklahoma wins out, that means they beat Alabama at Alabama. They're gonna have wins over Michigan at Alabama and Tennessee. They're gonna get in. If Texas wins out,
no question,
they're gonna beat Georgia and A&M still. And they're going to have like a good loss and a bad loss, and that's it. Like, they're going to get in. So there's all of that. Another one. Miami, Florida still has a case here. Like, they have 2 from the ACC. They may not. That's the ACC's best bet if they beat Pitt, because they would have wins over Notre Dame, USF, which is good, and Pitt. So there would be some opportunities there that I think like a Vanderbilt doesn't have, and I just don't really like Vanderbilt's argument or anything like that. But the football judgment guys, we know I would prefer one computer formula and we just go with that, and everyone knows what it is.
Isn't that what hockey does, Dan?
Hockey does it. Lots of Division III sports do it. Yeah, hockey. Now, it's a little tougher. You got less games and all that, but hockey has a thing called pairwise. NCAA hockey works perfect. People, they celebrate at the end of the night based on where they go up and down. It's not apples to apples, but you could do something. But they're not going to do that, right? This is college football. We hate learning anything. We don't like computers. Okay, heck no. We need some guy, named Bubba, who once was a D-line coach. He knows ball. I mean, I don't know. We can figure it out. This is all going to sort itself out. Okay,
right?
If there's one thing I can say about this, do not expand this stupid playoff, and I don't think they're gonna. It's coming up. They still want to. 12 is plenty this year.
Agreed.
Let this thing cook for 4 or 5 years and then say, boy, last year, what was the big problem? Alabama didn't get in. Well, they lost to 2 6-6 teams. Okay. They got all up in their feelings. Everyone went crazy. We better expand the playoff. No, this year, I don't know that we're going to be sitting there going, well, I don't know. What do you want? We don't should Utah get in or not, or this? I don't think we're missing anything. You have 12, so you don't cheat number 9. That's what it's not about getting 12 good ones. It's about making sure 9 isn't. We've got it. 12 is a great number. We do not need to expand this playoff. Certainly not based on what we're looking at this year, where we're already going, wait, who's getting in? What? No, we have teams that have not beaten anyone that are going to be on the cusp of this without a single rank win. So
I totally agree, Dan. You're 100% right. Last year, I didn't find any merit in any of the cases for any team that was left out. Actually, the team that was overlooked last year that had as good a case as any of them was BYU.
Yeah, BYU.
They probably didn't get evaluated the same way. The other teams had done disqualifying things. And Pete's heard me use this phrase. We wound up with the last couple of teams getting in the playoff. And even, look, all due respect to Indiana, you could make the argument based on their schedule last year that Indiana and SMU basically were less objectionable and had done fewer disqualifying type things like the ones you mentioned, and they got in. We've got enough. There are enough teams in this playoff, Pete, for sure.
Do not screw this playoff up, please. Like, you guys like screwing everything in this sport up, like expanding to 18 teams and doing this. And please, can we just stick to this for a little while, please?
It's very interesting. I'm focusing this on my world a little bit and how I have to look at it for my job. The race to get to 12 has completely trampled the expectations of coaches and what they're supposed to do. People lose 3 games and these programs are going out of their mind because they're probably not going to make the playoff. So it's very interesting that if we sit at 12, which of the power conference teams is what, about 10, 12% teams get in, something like that? No.
It was 136 teams.
Well, no, of a power. So like,
the power is 65 or whatever.
11 of the 65 are getting in.
Yeah, are getting in. So compared to that, NFL and whatever, it's like half, right? So everybody's firing their coach because they're not making the playoff. I mean, literally everybody, right? It's like so it's interesting that the behavior has become professionalized, like how the organizations are operating has become professionalized. There's $20 million budgets and there's expectations, and yet the postseason mechanism doesn't match that. And I'm not saying, yay, go expand the playoff, but Dabo brought this up last week. It's just a very interesting dichotomy right now where the sport sits, how much is weighted toward the postseason, which is just simply like difficult to make. Like, you have to be pretty elite to make the college football playoff. And I like that there is that element of, it used to be you have to be perfect, right? That was always one of the great, undercurrents of the sport. You couldn't step on a rake on the road at West Virginia one week. You couldn't do that. Now you can, but there's still a very high threshold. And I think one of the interesting things facing the sport in that conversation right now is, do you want to keep that? How high do you want to keep that threshold in order to keep going? Tony Petitti clearly doesn't want to keep it, where it is right now. He wants,
No, we do not need a 2018 playoff this year. Okay. Like, is anyone sitting around here right now, middle of November, going, boy, I really wish we had the 2018 playoff? Do we really need 6 Big Ten and SEC teams in the playoff? No. Okay, like, let's see. If Texas and Oklahoma win out, then maybe, go prove it. Like, we want something to watch right now. We want the ACC race to be really interesting. We want, this is still a compelling theater. There is a tipping point, and the 12 is the tipping point. It might even been less than 12, but we're at 12. Do not go above this. like these harebrained ideas where everybody gets in. And if coaches think, if you have a 2018 playoff and you think you're safe because you got in the playoff, you won't. Mm-hmm. Professional basketball, hockey, football, they get fired making the playoffs because no one appreciate. Oh, great, you made the playoff, right? Mm-hmm. The NBA has like the play-in round now, right? Like, I mean, it's almost impossible not to make it. And so, yeah, you get fired in the second. You go second round, third, whatever. You get fired then. So that's not going to be. Everyone listens to the coaches, and everyone's looking for a little, maybe another $1 or $2. This tipping point is really important right now. And you can think back to whatever this is, November 10th, right? And say, is anybody wish that we had the Tony Petitti 2018 team playoff plan right now? I can't imagine anyone other than if you are personally cashing a check off of college football. I have heard no fans sit there and say, man, I really wish Iowa still had a shot.
Except Iowa
they
fans.
still have a shot, I guess.
Yeah, they still, maybe they do.
These are meaningful games, and we've gotten to this point. We're paring it down some, but there's still a lot of meaningful games to go.
I mean, the entire thing that I hope that as they do this, and I fall into this too, because you think about a lifetime of conditioning of counting losses, and losses should matter. Number of losses should matter against your schedule, but there has to be some way, whether it's formula, whether it's the people in the room with the football judgment being brave enough. Just because you're in the SEC, if you lost 3 games, doesn't mean that you're better than all the 2-loss Big 12 teams, but it also doesn't automatically mean you're worse. Doesn't mean you're automatically behind them. And that's what I want from the committee if we're going to have some football judgment. And also you can look at the data, and a lot of these models don't do that. Now, a lot of the strength of record strength models are weighed heavily toward having fewer losses. And I know there's some merit in that. But you have to be able to differentiate some, because if you don't, then sooner or later you are going to wind up with what Dan's talking about. And I don't think that's good for the sport at all. We don't need that. But how we'll get there is if you start incentivizing playing lighter schedules outside the conference, and then you get the good fortune of your in-conference schedule being lighter. I made the statement earlier, I think A&M's closer to the best team in the country than the 4th best team. But A&M's also played, if they wind up in a tie and it gets down to the opponent's record in the SEC, their host, they're not getting in the SEC championship game. Actually, that might help them. But my point is, they wouldn't have a chance to play for it in all likelihood because, why? Because they've played, their schedule has been favorable in terms of record. Now LSU fell apart. I got that. Auburn has grossly underachieved, up to this point in the season. So, I get that. There are some good teams that fell on hard times. It's like the Oregon-Penn State thing. That was a hard game the night they played. That's a good win the night that Oregon got it for sure. And then things got sideways. Things changed. The committee needs to be able to account for that.